Hello and welcome back to the Monsters of Monster Hunter Double Cross, where today we are playing with Barioth, a monster that had not been seen since 3U. And we're going to be playing with a Hyper one using Guild Hammer. And the reason I'm using this hammer over Portsmark is because it's got more raw and has poison on it. So, yeah, just loses out a little bit in sharpness. And honestly, I'm cool with that. And the reason I'm using a hammer instead of some other weapon type is because I didn't want to use Switch Axe again, because I've been using it a lot, and apparently I need to make more Mega Potions. So I didn't want to use Switch Axe again so soon. And also, there's the whole, it's the only non-Switch Axe weapon I have that can, that has 3 slots and is fully upgraded. Like, I don't have any non-hammer, non-Switch Axe 3-slot weapons that I can fully upgrade easily right now. So, yeah, this is what I got. So as much as it'll pain me to not cut Barioth's tail, at least we'll get to put a Garuga's face on its face. Right, I don't have hot drinks in this item set. Oh well. And just as you see it in the opening cinematic, Barioth starts down here. Except it actually doesn't. Right. It starts in Area 1. Because it's weird like that. And for Hunter Arts, we've got Spinning Meteor 3 and Absolute Evasion. Just for the record. And Absolute Evasion is set as our SP art. I do absolutely love that we get to hear the Frozen Seaway music when fighting Barioth, because Barioth is a monster that actually matters. And Frozen Seaway music is great. So hearing great music while fighting a fun monster is nice. A fun monster that actually gives parts that have a chance of being used for something valuable. I've actually made a full set of Barioth X armor because, in my opinion, it's one of the best looking armor sets in the game. And I've used it for Transmog in the past. I'll probably end up using it again in future. But yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. Oh, we almost connected with that golf swing. Yeah, I actually scored a hit with that. Don't believe it was a mount hit, but it was a hit. That, on the other hand, was not. That was a mount hit. I'd certainly like to get more of those, rather than more of those just taking hits. Taking hits isn't great. Ooh. That was almost a cart. I think I'm going to retreat back to base camp here. Get a nice free full heal. I actually haven't hammered Barioth since Try, I don't think. So this is an interesting experience. I don't remember why I hammered Barioth and try. Might have been before I had a good switch axe. That was probably it. And I mean, if Barioth was in an arena quest in 3U, then I definitely used every available weapon against it, but arenas hardly count. I need to remember that I have absolute evasion. It's a useful thing. Dang it. Again. Dang it. For a moment, I was really hoping that I'd gotten a knockdown there, because it looked like there was some motion, but it was just Barioth getting ready to spit out that ice ball. I don't recall whether I said it earlier, but the reason I needed a weapon with 3 slots is so that I could have bind res. Because I like having bind res against Barioth. Certainly more than I like being snowman. And if I wanted to do it without having a 3-slot weapon, then I would have had to sacrifice something like Challenger 2 or Weakness Exploit. Neither of which I am entirely willing to give up. That was quite the jump off the wall there. That's right, come this way. There go the tusks. And there goes the Barioth. Okay, I will say there is a downside to using this weapon instead of the Portsmark, and that's not just that it doesn't have quite as much purple sharp. It's a noisy hammer. Makes lots of Garuga noises. Which is kind of nifty the first couple times, but gets a little annoying over time. Nice. Like, if they made it only make noises when you were doing a super pound, that would be totally acceptable. Now, let's put some damage in on these wings because they're hyper and I want them broken. Ow. This seems like a pretty small Barioth, but then again, I don't fight enough to be able to say for sure. Ow. Need health badly. Thankfully, SP mode is there to help me out. I'm making it quicker to take potions. Of course, you still gotta choose your times. Doesn't matter how quick it is, you can still get punished for it. Nice flinch. Another nice flinch. I really need to remember I have absolute evasion. And just do that. Plus, even when it's an SP yard, it builds up quick, so I don't really have anything to gain from not using it. At least as long as I'm in a situation where it's helpful. Using it just for the sake of using it is not ideal. Gonna go ahead and use this trap in there if it's not enraged when I get there. So, Barioth is an interesting monster. It's the least unique of the pseudo-wyverns in that it... Well, I mean, it does have a lot going for it that other pseudo-wyverns don't. But, like, a lot of its movements were taken directly from Nargacuga. That was even more apparent back in Tri. Because back then, it even had Nargacuga's, like, diagonal jumps. Though, it lost those in Portable Third, probably because Portable Third was the first game where Nargacuga and Barioth existed together. And incidentally, Portable Third was the last game before this one to have Barioth, Nargacuga, and Tigrex all in the same game. And that was actually the game that introduced Brute Tigrex. It was also the game that introduced Green Nargacuga, so, I mean, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Yeah, with Nargacuga and Barioth in the same game, they kind of had to take Nargacuga's signature move away from Barioth. And instead, Barioth got the shoulder check that we know now. That one. And now in this game, Barioth got this. Though only in G rank. Probably because they figured it needed another means of locomotion in order to really be as mobile as it needed to be. Ow. Barioth also has the distinction of being a monster that's very good in Monster Hunter stories as well. Which is nice. I like riding Barioth, because Barioth is a cool monster. Pun not intended. And there's wing number 2. So now we actually get to see Barioth start slipping and sliding around because those spikes on its wings that it ordinarily uses to catch its grip after doing certain attacks are now broken, so it'll slip on the ice, which is one of those things where it's a game mechanic that's justified in universe, and I like those. Certainly makes more sense than Blangdonga being completely unable to do loud roars when its teeth are broken. Looks like it's leaving, and unfortunately it's not painted, so we've got to make some guesses as to where it's going. I'm going to guess that it's going out here, though. Though actually, I think it might have gone west, yeah. Because I think I saw its shadow pass through the little exit here, going this way. So let's sharpen before we get in there. Yep, that's a Barioth. Incidentally, Barioth and Barioth having very similar names is not quite as much of a thing in the original Japanese. In Japanese, Barioth is Bariothos. And in Japanese, Barioth is Ouroboros. So they've got some very different sounds in the beginning instead of just being swap an R for an I. And we just got us a sparkly because Barioth couldn't catch itself properly and got a little dizzy, I guess. And I am amazed we didn't get hit just there. Barioth is yet another of the monsters that does not have its subspecies in this game. Sand Barioth actually gave me some trouble in try sometimes. Mainly because it had the ability to spit out little dust tornadoes that would move around randomly. And it could have up to 3 of them out at a time, and sometimes dodging all of them got a little tricksy. Plus, the big tornado it could spit out, like regular Barioths, actually lasted longer. So it was a little bit of area denial, and while it was up, the Sand Barioth could catch the wind and ride it up into an attack that you couldn't really tell who it was going for until it actually went. And you pretty much needed a Superman dive to avoid it. So basically I ended up diving even if it wasn't aiming for me, because that was the only way I could be sure I wouldn't be hit, because I couldn't be sure that it wasn't aiming for me until it actually went. Maybe there was some way to actually tell that I just didn't know, or maybe there wasn't. I do not know and will never know, I'm sure. Though thankfully Sand Barioth was not able to do snowman or mud. It had no means of binding, so there was that. Also, I really prefer regular Barioth's color scheme. Sand Barioth was yellow and red. And, like, I'm not a huge fan of yellow. Red's pretty okay. But honestly, regular Barioth just looks really nice. We haven't gotten a ride yet, have we? Well, so much for that flash. Maybe this one will do better. Yep. And there's sparkly number 2. And there's our ride. After which, that hyper face is getting a spinning meteor all over it. Maybe we'll get a KO, but probably not. I positioned myself wrong. Got a bunch of hits on the face, but also several hits on not the face. Unfortunately, from Barioth, you are limited to 2 sparklies per quest. And it's a good thing I painted it just there. And we are going to have to visit the base camp soon, because you use a lot of energy drinks when you're fighting the cold with them. I'll go ahead and save this trap for capture. Where are you going, buddy? Well, hey, I got my hit. Really need to keep the pressure up if I want to get another KO. It's not looking likely at this point, though. Oh, my cat gave me earplugs. That was nice of it. Incidentally, Barioth can't roar when it's tired. It'll do the animation, but it can't make the sound come out. Unfortunately, since this is a hyper one, we'll never see that. Probably didn't need to use the absolute evade there, but it is somewhat safer, even if I was already perfectly safe. You can always be safer than safe. Would have been nice if that golf swing hit the face instead of the neck. Oh, hey, interrupted a roar. Ow. Let's go ahead and bring the cats back. I guess I can just miss everything. That's always an option. Ow. Let's help the cats out a little bit. Thanks for the SP mode, though I don't really need it right this moment. Zamite. Okay, bye. And now's my cue to head to base camp. Oh good, Barioth's heading that way too. Helps me out. Because that way I won't have to go as far after getting my supplies. And I do need my supplies, because my stamina's getting awful low. I would really rather have more of it. Especially if I was to continue not using hot drinks. But I'm going to actually use hot drinks. Because they are nice and they keep you warm. And being warm feels good. And hey, we've got SP mode for eating these things. So let's go ahead and use this to get another spinning meteor on out. Apparently we get speed set up with SP mode too. Okay. Missed the most important hit, but still got a bunch of hits in on the face. Counts for something. Got that on the face. They didn't give us flashes, did they? No, they did not. It's a shame, I would have liked flashes. Oh, I forgot to drink a hot drink. But I've got this lovely KO just sitting here, so it's not like I can drink one right now. A lovely KO on a lovely hyper face. Hot drink. Okay. SP have any effect on whetstones? Yeah, reduces by 1 scrape. Not bad. Yeah, that looked like it hurt. Thanks, cat. Ow. really wish I could get that tail gone, but as pointy as this beak may be, it's not a cutting instrument. Ow. A little dangerous to actually heal after the first move from that crouch stance, because Barioth will almost always take a second run at the target. And also, wow, we almost got bit, but didn't quite. Barioth just straight up missed. And that is fine by me. That's a limp. Oh, actually, yeah, I shouldn't capture it. Because then we'd only get 20 seconds to look at half of its body. Right, I kind of went over that in a previous episode, that I shouldn't try and capture enemies for this series. An episode that I recorded earlier today, in fact. So if it limps away again, it'll get some bombs. Okay, bye. It's always fun getting knocked off cliffs. Though admittedly, the most fun forced area exit that I have seen in this game is in the Ruined Ridge, the new map. It's got that one spire that's way up at the top, right? But getting into the spire can be done on foot, which means that you can be knocked through that load zone and end up stunned on the other end at the top of that huge spire, which means that had to be a hell of a launch that the monster did to knock you through there and all the way up. And I just have to wonder what the logistics of that would even look like. I don't think it sleeps in here, but looks like it actually does, and we walked in just a moment too soon. And since we walked in too soon, it's not going to go to sleep again unless it leaves and then comes back, so we're in for the long haul here. Speed setup is nice. And I did not quite get to the item I had intended before hitting the Y button. Still looks like I did get to hit it with those bombs. Shouldn't be long before this thing dies. The one thing to take note of before it dies It's one of those monsters that has a somewhat non-standard rage sign. In addition to it huffing this frost out of its mouth, its eyes also turn red. Though now it's dead, so I really should have finished saying that beforehand. Yeah, ordinarily its eyes are blue, which looks really nice. But when it's enraged, they turn red. And incidentally, they glowed in the dark back in Tri when caves were actually dark. Yeah. Definitely some stretchy textures between the back carapace and the scales. But the carapace itself actually looks pretty nice. The scales also look pretty good. They've got really good bump mapping done on them. Like from here you can see it's a flat texture, but from up here they look really well defined. Throat scales are pretty okay. The face looks pretty good in general. Kind of wish it still had its tusks, because those look pretty nice too. Yeah, just in general, some pretty good texture work on Barioth. The fur areas could use a little bit more work in my opinion, but the scales and shells look pretty good. And that is a very red kill screen. Yep. And that is going to be it for this episode. Join us next time when I guess we're starting Wrath Week, because the next 6 weeks, or not 6 weeks, 6 episodes are all going to feature Wraths, starting with Rathian. See you then, friends.